introduce myself even further. Amy, thank you for the rousing introduction in the main room. I felt super loved and like we've known each other for a really long time. I graduated from Indiana Wesleyan in 2002 with Angie. I don't know if that was even said with Angie Young. We were in the same class, so it's pretty funny, pretty cool to get paired up on the same day. But so I jumped straight into youth ministry out of college. So early 2000s, before like anybody thought of residency, or sometimes we did summer internships and then we had required practicums and stuff like that with our majors. But jumped in, went to my home church. So I've been in churches where I served in college, 35 to 80 people. And then my home church was about 200-ish. I spent a few years in Bartlesville, Oklahoma at First Wesleyan Church there, right by Oklahoma Wesleyan University. So a lot of good relationships with folks there. I was there for 3 years. Church of 800. And then right now at Generations Church, we're running right at 2,000. So pretty cool kind of variety of settings that I've been able to do youth work in. And a lot of those years where you feel like you're on an island by yourself, like depending on church size. So hopefully some of the thoughts that I have today are ideas that translate regardless of context, because I think that matters when it comes to, I always despise going to a conference and somebody is giving us advice and telling us what to do. And they're like, well, just have your staff, do X, Y, Z. And 90+% of us in the audience, like nobody has a staff. You're everything. You're the janitor too. You know what I mean? And so, and I'm still, even with what we have here, which we're blessed with our space and the growth season that we're in with youth right now, like I'm the last one there cleaning up, like running a vacuum or putting signs away. And once all my volunteers have done things to the point at which they have to rush home or get their kids home. And we provide childcare for our leaders too. So we have leaders who have younger kids who have to be home at a decent bedtime too. So hopefully these ideas translate. I kind of broke them into two thoughts. So when it comes to recruiting and training leaders or onboarding, Amy, as you said, finding them and keeping them, I think are the really sort of dynamic ideas there, because recruiting wouldn't even have to be a thing if people were interested in youth work. You know what I mean? I always feel like youth is often the redheaded stepchild of the church, because teens are messy and nobody wants to just jump in with teens because they're scary. How do you relate with them? Their habits are weird. They like weird stuff. I don't know how to talk to them. All things that adults, like from young adult age to the elderly, probably across the board, feel about teens. So if it wasn't for that, recruiting wouldn't be necessary. So I broke this down into 4 ideas, probably not necessarily in order of importance, but if I was to start from scratch today, which by the way, I start from scratch every day. So I don't even know why I said that. Like I literally feel like I start from square one every day, because we always need more volunteers. We always need more leaders. Broke them up into like 4 specific thoughts. The first one is there is nothing better when it comes to recruiting leaders than the direct ask, than making a direct ask of an individual. That might sound like a cop out. It's really not. It is just the best way. And a phone call is fine, an email is fine, a text is fine, but nothing beats face to face. People receive that as a compliment, even though we think maybe we're putting them out, or we say, I hate to ask you to do this. I feel so bad, putting this in front of you, but would you ever consider volunteering in some capacity with our youth program? It's people more often than not, and it still surprised me to this day. They feel surprised, honored, or just unexpected gratitude that you would consider them for that, even if their answer is going to be no. It can open the door to something else, another relationship, and maybe even another ministry of the church that they might be interested in sharing in. Now, a couple things about that conversation. I have a staff pastor that I worked with. We became very close friends. He's an incredible storyteller, and he has this phrase that he calls a "save the cat" story. And so the premise is from movie making where there's always a peak or a climax or a pinnacle of the movie where something goes down that the rest of the movie hinges on. Like this has to happen in order for the cat to be saved from the tree. So if I'm talking to somebody who I've identified as a potential volunteer, what is my save the cat story with that volunteer? I'll give you an example. 2 Sundays ago, was having a conversation with the dude at the church. He's a football coach in town. He and his wife do not have children. They're approaching 40. They've dealt with some infertility, but they love working with kids. He's never approached me about speaking with youth. Another staff member and I were collaborating on some names, ideas of people we wanted to approach. I went to him and I said, you know what, Dan, with your coaching skills and your experience with young people, he has quite a story with coming out of alcoholism, and now he's been like 4 years sober, and it's a super cool story. I said, I think there are a lot of kids who relate to either parents who have similar struggles or somebody who has a quiet but strong demeanor that you do that would provide an approachability for students that maybe you hadn't considered before. And he's our newest middle school time Sunday morning volunteer. Just from one, having the courage to have a conversation with him, and two, giving him perspective that he's needed. A lot of times will be someone's no in that individual ask, that personal conversation. The temptation is to say, hey, it's okay for you to say no if you don't want to or you feel like you can't, but we would love to have you help out with the youth program. It's so easy if we don't want to like put someone out or make it inconvenient for them to be their no. So even bigger than the save the cat side of that, I would say really resist the urge to be someone's no. The other thing I would say about making direct asks is to start with a list. Think of it as like advanced scouting. I'm a hunter. It's something I've done since I was a child. It's awesome in Colorado. I still have family in Missouri, and in a month I get to go to Texas and hunt wild pigs. It's my favorite thing to do, but hunting is incomplete without a good plan or without a scouting profile on wherever I'm going. I'm wasting my hunting time if I'm just out looking for animals, and I haven't done that in advance. And so we, as a team here, both with my volunteers and then with other paid staff here, we spend time walking through lists in our database of people who we think might be worth a conversation. That way, on a Sunday morning, as folks are coming in, we're not just trying to reinvent the wheel and look around and go, who in here is somebody I could talk to about youth? There are pre-planned conversations on that list that have happened where I've said, this is someone I've identified that I've wanted to talk to. And sometimes if they're hard for me to catch face-to-face on a Sunday or in a personal meeting, I'll just out myself and I'll send them a text and say, hey, I'd really like to talk to you about some ministry opportunities that I think you'd be a good fit for. Would you mind finding me on Sunday morning? I'm not hard to find. They are hard to find. And so I won't use the text to make the ask more often than not. If I'm afraid of the person, again, being completely honest, there are some people that I fear that terrify me. I'll make the ask in a text and then try to get to the conversation from there. I can't lie. Sometimes I do that, but 9 out of 10 times, I'm going to send the text to tell them that I want to have a conversation with them, and then I'm going to use that personal conversation to make that ask. And then finally, under this one, when I'm making the list, I wonder if I'm considering people who are different than me, and like, are there people that I would naturally disqualify for a conversation or be their no even before I have the conversation with them? Some examples of that. Older folks, okay? Two of our newest volunteers on Wednesday nights are 75 years old. The husband and wife. Again, we're in a really good season here at Generation Church. And our youth program has been blowing up. And I don't know why. It's super cool because I don't know why. But like, we're finding ourselves having to get ready and be prepared for all of these students. And we realize we don't have enough of an outside presence when it comes to parents dropping students off at our facility. And so we have strategically placed these these seniors is what they are, on the sidewalk right outside of our main door. They're so excited to have their youth lanyard that has their name on it, that they're greeting teens. And it's an exodus of students coming into the building and leaving every night. And they're so thrilled to just be able to say hi and welcome. Some of them, last night was only their second night. And Debbie, the wife, she came up to me and she said, I got 3 hugs tonight on the way in, and it was so cool. And it was in some of them, kids they've seen them on Sunday mornings, but even just the night before, last Wednesday, we had a worship night. They were the greeters, had a whole conversation with students as they're coming in, and are thrilled to be a part of it. And you think, well, that's not your typical youth volunteers. Your typical volunteer has to have loads of energy. They have to be young. They have to have crazy ideas. No, they just have to desire to be available and present, and on board for students. And it is, guys, youth work is so cool because it's contagious to people. They fear it at first. They fear the idea of it first, and they don't think they can do it, but it is absolutely contagious once they get there. And it is my favorite thing about it, because our group of leaders, my best Wednesday volunteer right now is 66 years old. She gets here 2 hours before doors open and just starts setting up. And she just started doing it on her own. And she's so good. She even asked what I want. What are we doing that's different this week that you need me to do differently? And I'm like, Shannon, I can't pay you. She's so gracious and so cool. So our team looks so different. I mean, we have young adults, 19 and 20, all the way up to that 75 range. And so as you're making that list, consider people that you wouldn't normally even think of as youth volunteers, because you'll probably find some of your best volunteers that way. The next 2 I could do fast because they're related to each other. And this is also, the words may seem big, but this is unrelated to church size. The first thing is a church campaign. Like think of like a youth focus week, or am I willing, or am I excited about enough what's happening in youth or what I want to do in youth to go to whoever's in charge of Sunday mornings. If it's a smaller church, if it's the lead pastor, maybe it's a worship pastor who plans the services, something of that nature. Or as you get bigger and bigger, you have production leads and things like that. Go months out and say, what would it look like for us to be able to do a targeted church campaign to highlight what's happening in youth and highlight the need for volunteers. Hey, we are growing. We have awesome things happening, and we need you. Maybe you don't think that you would fit into this or it's something you could do, but we actually need you. And I think one of the most important things about something like a church campaign is it puts the youth ministry in front of the rest of the church, because these folks have no idea what's going on. Whether you do youth on, a Sunday night, a Sunday morning, even during church, we have separate space. We have separate times. And it's so easy for the rest of the church to overlook the things that are happening in the youth program. So the design of that church campaign is to be able to show the church what's happening. If you have video capability, can you put some student testimonies followed by current volunteers, like in a 2-minute clip, in a 3-minute clip that is just, it's faces and it's stories, individual person. People love wins. They love personal stories. They love to hear that. If you don't have the capability for video, can you do it in person? Right? There's more factors to have to regulate with that when it comes to time. And hey, if it's a student and they're brave enough to get up on stage and they're going to share their testimony and what they're excited about in youth, I'm going to work with them personally, so I know they fit that into 2 or 3 minutes. I'm going to help shape that outline, even if it's something they have to read, right? Adults of all ages love to see students who are passionate about or willing to own their faith. So there's a whole bunch of ways that you could do church campaigns, ways that you could make that happen. But the idea is, how do I communicate with the rest of the building what's happening in our youth program? How can I put that in front of people? And then what's the direct ask? So it's not just as an FYI. What's the direct ask? Who do they contact? Is there a link? Is there a QR code? Is there an email address? Is there a phone number? Is there a cell phone number? Something that goes directly to someone? How can I put that in front of people in the church? And then the next thing is targeted ads and marketing. Now, when I say targeted ads and marketing, you immediately think like clickbait or paid social media ads or things like that. I don't actually mean like that. What I do mean is if the church has socials, the church has, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, even Snapchat, anything like that. If the church has that, is it possible to do a youth takeover? So can I do a youth takeover on the main church socials, or what is whoever manages that for the church? Maybe it's a volunteer, maybe it's a lead pastor. Again, context matters, but most churches now have something like that. Are you willing to repost the things that we share from the youth setting? Like, can you put that in front of? So we go back to our campaign idea there. Are you willing to take the things that we're doing and put that in front of the rest of the church so that they can see what's going on? Handouts. If your church is doing bulletins still, I know we've been away from it since I think COVID actually helped us escape the bulletin curse of generations. But if your church still has a weekly bulletin, what's it look like to put a youth insert in there? Put a youth insert with a link or a QR code or something that will take people right to it. I think that's a realistic possibility that exists to be able to put something directly in front of people. And then group texting. We used to use Clearstream. We used easy texting before that, and all of them, like, they rope you in and are like, "Hey, we're free," and then after a while you start charging. Currently, we use Gloo, Gloo. That's the program that we use. We switched from Clearstream to Gloo when they were free, and now we're paying out the wazoo to use Gloo. But the best and fastest way to communicate anything is through that. Where I actually am having an event on Thanksgiving week. We do this thing called Family Thanksgiving Dinner with our teens, and the last 2 years, my regular leaders have run it. And it's low on programming, but it's a ton of work. It's a carry-in. There's a lot of setup and cleanup and things like that. We have table hosts. The first year we did it, I just didn't want to cancel youth for anything. So I was like, we're not taking Thanksgiving week off. Everything else gets canceled. We're not. Youth is always here. And so what I'm doing this year is I'm actually excusing all of my regular volunteers, and I've opened the door for parent volunteers. So I've set using the text line, which parents subscribe to as well. I've actually, there's a sign up genius that just went out yesterday that is like 25 slots for this family Thanksgiving dinner that I'm hoping. Now this is a little bit of trickery, but I'm going to lure some other parents into the building and hope to have conversations. I'm going to have not so shameless plug with them while they're there to say, "Hey, if you enjoyed this, like, we have fun like this. We celebrate together every Wednesday night. It would be cool to have you consider being a part of the team." So you're going to get the ones who are like, "Well, hey, let me know when you have a special event. I can help every once in a while." Maybe 1 out of 10 of your conversations yields a forever volunteer, right? Somebody who lives it, breathes it, just wants to be there every week and gets their energy from it. But it ends up being worth the effort. Little bonus point for this recruiting section is it's so important to have clear expectations. So let people know what the ask is and what you're asking of them. So how clear are my expectations? Have I eliminated all surprises from these things so that it's not a cloak and dagger situation where I'm trying to lure them in, but then once they get there, it's like a timeshare presentation. You know what I mean? It's so much more than they expected. They're signing on the dotted line until death. Am I asking them for like a 6-week trial? Or am I asking them, am I looking for more Sunday morning volunteers? Am I looking for more Wednesday night volunteers? Do I need small group leaders? I'm looking for cleanup crew. Like, I don't want to be the one necessarily here till 11 o'clock, making sure, all the carpet is taken care of. And we do first Wednesday food night. We feed our entire group the first Wednesday of every month. And we just started our annual Hottest Ones series. So we interview an adult leader, just like the YouTube show Hot Ones, ask them tough questions and their faces are just on fire. And then, we cook up, 2,500 chicken nuggets and have sauces available in the room. So there's mashed chicken nuggets just everywhere, 150 kids trampling chicken nuggets all night. So we're in there with like paint scrapers. It's horrendous, but make sure the expectations are clear. Are you going to be cleaning up for me once a month? Are you going to be there Wednesday, week in, week out? What does that look like? And make sure that the time commitment's clear. Okay. On brand for me. I went about 5 minutes over what I wanted to for that, but that's finding them. I I think the finding them part is, uh, I think the finding them part is hard. I think the keeping them part is actually probably harder, because it's so often just a case by case, depending on the leader. Some are going to be sold out. Some you're convincing them year after year, hey, you got another year in you. I could say, like, what else do you need from me? And really, a lot of the keeping them part of that, and this isn't even a point, but just an overarching general theme is, how am I pastoring my volunteers? If I'm looking at it from a perspective of Jesus and the disciples, these are the people in this stage of my life. I'm 45, almost 46, and I've been doing youth work full time for almost 24 years. At this stage of my life where I'm a parent, I have a 19-year-old, 14, 13, and 5-year-old. So I have all these stages of kids. They're looking at me as a peer, and I have the opportunity to speak in their life as a fellow parent and not just a crazy young youth pastor. I loved those days too, because I missed those energy and ideas and all the things that were impossible that I knew I could do. Where now I'm a little bit more tempered, and I have young people on my team who I hand those things to, but it's my responsibility to care for those leaders so that they know I value them. Okay. So once I've done the recruiting portion and I'm looking at keeping them and pouring into them, the first thing I look at is intake. What does intake look like? What do I have to put in their hands to get the ball rolling? We do background checks. You guys don't do background checks, or if there's somebody watching this later on, other than today, you need to do background checks. It doesn't matter how much you like the person. Like, we are responsible for these kids, and their safety is of utmost importance to us. So we need to do. You do it locally. You can do national programs. They're not that expensive either, so we just put the bill for those. I just consider it like our own tax on making someone like do a vulnerable thing. So we do background checks immediately, and then have a manual that I hand them. Now, it's not a 10 Commandments. This is a how we operate, what we do, everything, all of the opportunities that are available to you. And I will so often have people start off with something as non-committal as like security or cleanup, and it evolves into something long-term. My best, I say that a lot. I have so many great volunteers that I love. Kyle Hott, who I will sing his praises forever. Kyle, he's about 6'6". He's one of our youth dads, but he said, I made a few years ago, I made a 7-month commitment to stay with our current youth settings, just to provide stability to the program. I had stepped out of youth for a few years and then stepped back in. I said, I'm going to stay for 7 years at least, so the current 6th graders graduate. Well, he had a 6th grader, or he had a 7th grader at the time, and then soon to be 6th grader. He's like, I'll come help, but I'll just do security. Now he leads my high school guys group. He's bringing students on Sunday mornings up to worship right in front of the stage in adult worship. We have 50 teens crowding the front of the stage during adult worship on Sunday morning. And Kyle, in his giant 6'6" frame, is like hands raised right in the middle of them. It is incredible. It gives me goosebumps just to talk about. But a lot of times we'll give them that manual of operations, let them see the different opportunities that are available, and then the expectations and commitment of adult leaders, so they know, so those expectations are clear. And it's cool to watch them grow out of those opportunities. The second thing, after intake, we do shadowing. And shadowing is so cool because if I don't have any other leaders, if I'm solo at a church, if I'm starting a program from scratch, or it's a tiny church, then I'm just going to let them shadow me. I'm going to have them follow me, and then we're going to find the things that they want to do out of that. But man, what a gift it is once you have a couple volunteers to be able to put a new volunteer next to an existing volunteer and just like let them run. Because what happens is those existing volunteers, they get to talk about the things that they know and the things that they're excited about to them. And then they remember everything that they're passionate about with youth. That's one of my favorite things about having a current volunteer be shadowed by someone, is because they start to have light bulbs go off all over again. It gives them ideas, new passions, and does a ton to move the ball with that new volunteer feeling comfortable. But the goal of that is we want to be able to answer as many questions as we can. We don't just want to like say, well, that's basically how we do youth. Do you have any questions? Anything come to mind? And they've just been drinking from a fire hose, so they're dumbfounded and they don't know what questions to ask. So we try to continue to provide information in a setting that could prompt questions, because the thing I love about new volunteers is they are fresh eyes. They will see things. We're so close to our product, right in front of our face all the time. They get to see it with fresh eyes, and they jump in and say, "Hey, have you guys thought about, when we had one last night, brand new volunteer. We're serving food. It's going down, and like the room's chaotic and the line is a mess." And he just, he was like, "Hey, what if we added a second table, and we used this like massive hallway on the outside, and we just stretched the line through the hallway?" And so now when we do food in December, we have this new idea that we're going to try that potentially makes our room feel bigger because it was a fresh set of eyes and new guy was pumped about it. Third thing is general training sessions. So we will do general training sessions for our leaders once a semester. And those have two purposes. First is, are there leadership things? Are there culture things? Are there specific issues with our group, with our ministry that need to be addressed? Okay. Hard things. Now, I do want to be clear. I would never use a general session to address an individual problem with one leader. No, that has to happen individually with them prior to that. These are broad behaviors. Like, hey, leaders start to get a little bit too comfortable congregating together in the back or on the side or something like that during worship because, hey, they've found some kindred spirits. They look forward to hanging out with those other adult leaders, before we break into small groups or message time. Guys, we have time to do that before, and we have time to do that after. I actually need you sitting in with the students. Like, we try really hard. NTS camp, I don't know if anybody's ever been to NTS camp, but they are masters at commanding a room when students are talkative and disruptive, because they do not let anything happening from the audience disrupt what's going on the stage, because what's happening on the stage is too important. They plow through. And I mean, you're as a attendee, you're looking around going, these kids are being so freaking disrespectful. Like, can we get a shush over the room or something like that? And it takes a few minutes, but eventually what happens is the kids realize they're missing out on something, and then they finally tune in up to the stage. So if what I'm doing on the stage is worthwhile for them to watch, they're going to eventually tune in. But I want adults spread out in that audience just as a presence, because it adds equity, it adds trust, it adds all kinds of value, even though it's easier to sit and visit as a group. So if it's a cultural thing, that's one thing I'll address. And then the other thing is general training opportunities. If we have new ideas of how to lead our small groups better, what is it? Even essential things like, hey, you work with young people, you work with minors. Do you know that you're a mandatory reporter? You're a mandatory reporter for safety concerns, abuse, neglect, things like that. How do I identify that? And then once I have that, what do I do about it? Because like 9 times out of 10, they just want to come to me. Well, I wasn't the observer. So if I'm going to make a report on something that looks like some sort of abuse or neglect, then I have to bring them into it anyway. So what does it look like to cut out the middleman? How do I see that as a responsibility? It's inconvenient a lot of times, but we have to regularly. So I will yearly talk about being a mandatory reporter. It's good to have in front of everybody. So general and essential things like that. What do we do if a fight breaks out? What kind of disciplinary things matter most? Like, we don't allow vapes in the building, for instance, vapes, paraphernalia, alcohol, things like that. You know what I don't regulate? Outside. Like, we have enough stuff going on inside that we're responsible for. I take a similar approach as a school does when it comes to that. So behavior in the bathrooms, we have bathroom chaperones. So one student is allowed in the bathroom at a time, which can make a line back up from time to time. But we've had some damage in our building where some kids come in, students are dealing with stuff. It's a hard time. And then eventually they're ripping a stall off the wall. And then I got to take $350 out of my budget to repair it. So stuff like that happens. Okay. Last thing, bonus idea for keeping them, be generous with material. So we talked about valuing them. We talked about pastoring them, but like, think about the things that you can give away to your leaders. Maybe I don't have a huge budget for books or material or training or things like that, but I have books that I'm reading that are worth passing on. I don't need to keep those books for forever. Yeah, library is cool, but this was meaningful to me in a season. I'm going to give it to somebody else now. So be generous with material, whatever that looks like. If it's taking them out to meals, if it's giving them a Starbucks card here and there, just be generous. I think that will go a long way to help keep them. So